Mike McGovern, where are you? Speak so that you come up on my screen. Need to see that face.
Good morning, Ina.
Ah, there you go. Hi, Mike. Mike's calling in from Maine today. So, Mike, we are thrilled that you gave us some time today, but I just needed to give you a very little bit of an overview. The steering committee for our Post-Polio Syndrome Advocacy is one of the most extraordinary groups I have ever been part of. And I don't know if any group in Rotary that's trying to move along and be part of has ever had a more devoted, passionate, smart, adorable, loving group. And so we are committed to going forward, and we wanted to talk to you first because you are the keeper of the knowledge, and second because we want to be sure you know where we are in all of our efforts and get some advice from you as well. So the first thing is I wanted to open up and say that we get people, as you can see, from all over the world who join in, and we post it on our own Facebook page, but we also post it on a lot of the support pages as well. We want people to know we exist because a lot of them do not know that. The thing that most people ask, and if you could just bring us up to date on the eradication, and I know you could talk for an hour on this, so I'm going to ask you for an elevator speech. If you could just bring us up to date on the eradication efforts at this moment. And we were lucky enough to learn about the new oral vaccine that is being produced that has quite remarkable effort to not be to not lead to any vaccine-derived cases. So if you could just fill us in on that, then we can go forward with what we want to do, but we need to learn from you right this minute.
Thank you, Ina, and good to be with you. And I would agree with you. Lots of lovely people on this call. Looking at the screen, I'm fortunate to work with a number and serve with a number of the folks on the screen in a number of different capacities. Polio eradication has been the goal of Rotary now for over 30 years. And it's gone fairly well overall. It's, disappeared from quite a few countries. And now we're down in the last year. We've had polio of the wild polio virus in 3 countries. The country with 30 cases altogether last year. The country with the most number of cases was Pakistan. Second was Mozambique, and third was Afghanistan. We haven't had any wild polio virus cases in the last 4 months, which is, just tremendous. It's not the longest we've gone without a wild polio virus case in recent years, but at the same time, I think it's a sense of real progress. And I think we're also pleased that in the 3 areas where we've had cases, the 3 geographies, the governments are working together with the Rotarians, with the World Health Organization, UNICEF, Gates, and the other partners. They're all working together, particularly the governments, to see an end to polio eradication. This has been accomplished. Rotary, it has provided the initial funding, but then since then, the #1 donor is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, actually followed by the U.S. government. And, Rotary's right up there third. We're investing $50 million a year of monies that Rotarians and a few friends of ours give directly to Rotary. And then the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation gives Rotary $100 million to match that $50 million. It's a 2-to-1 match. The committee that I chair in Rotary is called the International PolioPlus Committee. We're the group that allocates that funding. It all goes, the $150 million total all goes to WHO and UNICEF, the primary implementing partners. We're buying vaccines. We're doing what we call surveillance. An awful lot of the expenses is going toward operational cost and what we call outbreak response. We have had a number of cases of what we call vaccine-derived polio. This is of a variant that affects people who don't have any immunizations. And as a result, their immune systems are weak. And it's been a concern. It's, 2 years ago, we had over 1,300 of those cases. Last year, we had about 700. And we need to reduce those. We are seeing some positive trends, but we still have significant issues in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, in Yemen, Somalia, and to a lesser extent in the northern part of Nigeria. So, that's all good progress. We've also, as Ina, you alluded to, there was a new oral polio vaccine that came out now almost 2 years ago. That has gone to over right around 600 million children thus far. Since, again, it's still under an early use license, early use approval from the World Health Organization, still undergoes extensive review. We've had a couple of cases with folks that have gotten that vaccine that have ended up getting polio out of the 600 and something million. That shows that overall it's way more stable than the bivalent oral polio vaccine, primarily monovalent as well, that we had been using. But it's a very positive sign. So our overall goal is, by the end of this calendar year, 2023, by December 31st, thereafter, we will have no more new wild polio virus cases, nor any new of the vaccine-derived cases. Most people are somewhat looking good, feeling that the wild polio virus goal is attainable. There's far less confidence on the vaccine-derived, but it's still possible. Rotarians have remained committed. I think the other partners have remained committed. The Gates Foundation's remained committed. I try to keep up on it. There's a lot of Rotarians, as in Polio Now coordinators on the screen, who helped to raise the $50 million, do a tremendous job. We have national advocacy advisors in the different countries. We also have a U.S. polio advocacy task force, and we have an international advocacy task force. And we reach out to the governments of the world, trying to encourage them to give. We're very, very pleased that a lot of the countries, we have someone with us from Australia today. They've come forward and provided funding. The UK has provided funding. Germany, I don't know if anyone's here from Germany, but Germany has been tremendously supportive. France this year came forward for the first time in many, many years. And, we also have, Canada's been a stalwart supporter for a long, long time. And of course, the US as well. And I apologize, I'm probably forgetting some key, Japan, amongst some key countries, but there's so. Do you want me to touch on the advocacy for PolioPlus syndrome a little bit? Our views on that? Yeah, we devote most of our money to the things that I said. We're paying for the frontline workers, we're paying for the vaccines, we're the cold chain and all of that stuff. And the one challenge we have is the Gates Foundation match of up to $50 million, match 2-to-1, only applies to the monies that we give to something called the financial resource requirement, the FRR they call it. They use acronyms for everything. And as a result, there's really no money to devote to other things. For example, all of the monies that we spend on advocacy, on fundraising, we have to raise above that 50 million. And we barely raise. Last year we raised 50 million. So we have a little bit in reserve. That's how we're paying for our advocacy. The advocacy that we do, we're going to be meeting in March, and we'll be having talking points that we meet. John Nanny's involved in this, meeting with the various members of the key congressional committees in Washington, and the same thing happens in Australia and in many other places. But we need to make sure in those talking points that we include more on polio plus syndrome. We haven't been doing that. Once in a while we'll get a question about it, but particularly as some of you have approached different people, it
Oh,
shows,
yes, I remember that, yes.
and obviously, you know, we
Yeah.
support doing that. Yeah, Ruth, you need to mute. There we go.
She did.
Yeah, so, you know, we can do more on that. And, you know, because it is of concern, and, you know, obviously the cases seem to be increasing, you know, across the world, particularly as, you know, so many of you and others, you know, have come down with it, you know, well after you might have had, you likely had polio, or you didn't know that you did. But that that's very important. We can do more on that, and, you know, and that doesn't take us, it really doesn't take us any more money to be doing that. But, you know, if you have particular objectives that, you know, that you're trying to raise money for, awareness, you know, research or assistance to individuals, you know, let us know about that, and we can be more inclusive of that information. Because obviously, you know, while our goal is eradicating polio, you know, Rotarians from the very beginning got involved in this because for so long we were helping particularly kids over the years who had come down with polio, you know, buying the braces and so many other things around the world. So while our priority is eradication, there's not room for a lot of funding, but there's lots of room for advocacy in the whole polio spectrum.
Well, that was another question, you know, what can we do to help Rotary? Of course, we're looking to build awareness. We're looking to advocate for the rights, the benefits, the resources that we need. At this moment, we're certainly not a fundraising operation. It's more about awareness. And John and Nanny and I agree, when we speak to groups about our origin story, which they always want to hear, we can now always end it with, and by the way, post-polio syndrome is out there. And most of the people come to me afterward and say, I've never heard of this before. And so we now have an opportunity to say there is a lasting effect. The late effects of polio will affect about 40 to 60% of the people who had polio, and some who didn't have any paralysis whatsoever will suffer with it now. So how do we help you help us in terms of awareness, just to begin with? Well, you know, we're new, we're taking baby steps here. And as you can see by the people who sign on to this, every week we get more and more people who sign up to be part of the information stream that we are creating.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think, you know, one way you can help is by giving us talking points that we're explaining it properly, and that people are aware of it, and, you know, people have the sense of how prevalent it really is across the world. Secondly, you know, Joyce Graff, who's not on the call today, I don't think.
No.
Don't you know Joyce, part of your group? No, she's in Florida right now. But
she is.
Oh,
Yeah.
she is here. Good. Hi, Joyce.
She tried to get a breakout at the Rotary International Convention in Melbourne, Australia, on post-polio syndrome, and she was turned down.
Yes, we saw.
You know, we didn't get one on polio fundraising either. We asked for one for the polio program, one for polio fundraising. We got turned down. So, you know, it's you know, as you see, particularly, you know, in the travels coming up of Gordon McAnally or Stephanie Urchik, who are the next two presidents of Rotary after the current, you know, make sure they understand about post-polio syndrome, and make sure they understand about your desires for awareness, and specifically ask, will there be a breakout at the convention on this? It's, you know, extremely disappointing. And, you know, Joyce wants to meet with me sometime. She had to go to Florida for something this week involving her family, but you know, we've got to figure out a strategy to make that happen, because I think, you know, it's a good way of getting two Rotarians, particularly if any of you, Rotary has something, I know, I think some of you are Rotarians, but you're not all Rotarians. We also have something called President-elect training seminars. We call them PETS, you know, to try to get on those programs. You know, Angela she's got a background in public relations and image, and, you know, and part of it is, it's public image. Part of it is, you know, getting it out to those different groups, but you know that it's but you know, but that's the way. If you can get into those within the Rotary community, district conferences, district like training seminar, district assemblies, all those different meetings. That's a way of building awareness. And the other thing, Ina, is you need to make yourselves available to clubs by, even if, a lot of clubs are, they're meeting in person again, but they still do have speakers by Zoom. So, your forum, can be in your own community, but it still can be virtually anywhere in the world. Because, a lot of clubs are still doing programs. Even if they're
in this case, you're speaking to the choir, because that's what we do. And we have been doing that for a very long time. I mean, one of the articles in the Rotarian, when it was called that magazine in 2010, was about me talking about post-polio syndrome from 2010 in September. And so we've been at this for a very long time. And I was wondering, because of the Polio Plus, you do a lot of other things, that I have read about, that when a vaccine person goes into a house, they look for other issues that might impact the child's health and well-being. Is anywhere in the Plus, is it mentioned that there is such a thing as post-polio syndrome?
Not specifically, no. The Polio Plus, has always, it's very general. It mentions, vitamin supplements a little bit.
Yes.
And we what little is mentioned, we do a lot more. The other possibility, and some would kill me for mentioning this, but so you ought to try, if you don't already, to develop a relationship with the Gates Foundation, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They're very, very careful, anything involving Rotarians. They run it by us before they do it. But just as an example, there's a Reg Ling, who's on the call, is familiar with a group called Rotary Family Health and AIDS Prevention. And they have developed doing health camps, particularly in African countries. And they've served millions of individuals with cancer screening, with all sorts of things. But they needed, in the last year, they wanted to expand their health camps, particularly in the area where Stella is, in South Africa and Mozambique and that region, Malawi. And there was a South African Rotarian, Sue Paget, who helps to run that outfit, who approached Rotary and approached the Gates Foundation about the Gates Foundation possibly funding some health camps to focus it, to actually provide the direct service, but there's also a huge component of awareness on it or whatever. And, it's, they ended up, the Gates Foundation, I think, applied $2 million, I think it was, to the cause. So, it's we fully agreed with that. And it actually came out of the Gates polio budget, which is the first time they've ever done that. Gates funds a lot of things, but this came out of they said they spend about $400 million a year on polio, of which 100 they give to give to Rotary. But this was supplemental money that they gave. So I used the point that if you developed a certain awareness campaign, and targeted whatever, there there may be some funding sources for that.
John, Nanny, you had a question?
Yes. Mike, going back to the aspect of Polio Plus, us as a group helping bring awareness, I really think it's important for Rotary to look at us to push the reduction of Rotary fatigue by giving us as an example of why we need to eradicate polio. I don't see that happening very much throughout the Polio Plus program of utilizing Polio Plus or post-polio syndrome people to show that this is why we're eradicating polio. This is why we need to reinforce the efforts to eradicate polio, so that 20 to 40 to 50 years from now, the kids that are we're saving from polio won't get post-polio syndrome.
Yeah, no, I think I totally agree with you. I did see, I was in Senegal and the government put on a program there back in December. And we actually had a speaker, a local person from Senegal who had post-polio syndrome. And he got the biggest ovation, even more than the president of the country did, on his presentation. And, I think created, some good awareness there. There was a good audience of, a lot of people in the public health field. And, that's all very positive. The other thing is, I know you're not all the United States, but I don't know what involvement you've had with the CDC in terms of updating them on post-polio syndrome and what your concerns and awarenesses are, and maybe seeking some of their help and awareness. And we could help to, make some of those connections for you if you don't already have them.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Was there any other question in the chat that we should bring up at this moment? One more, John?
Let me unmute myself here. We have a question from Dr. Juart Sunder. If you can unmute yourself and ask Mike the question you had.
Yes, sir. First, hello to all. The fruitful discussion is going on regarding the polio and PolioPlus. My question is that all are here to me?
Yeah,
I do hear you, Dr. Sunder.
Yes. My question is that in 15, I worked for the Plus Point, which is the post-polio syndrome or vaccines. Because polio is going to be a second one disease from the globe regarding eradication point of view. After that, we have only one component, that is the post-polio syndrome. So I work in my community, write a paper regarding the rehabilitation point of view, management point of view, and with the complication of the patients who suffer from the polio. Now, here is my question. What else I can do, serviceable self, at my level for the betterment?
Dr. Sunder, I think, you're a great example of, what folks can do to spread the word about polio. Dr. Sunder, for those of you who may not be aware, lives in Pakistan. And he refers to himself as the slum Rotarian. And I sometimes uncomfortable with that word. But what he does is he visits impoverished communities around Pakistan, particularly meeting with children, to let them know about polio, to let them know the importance of vaccines. And, I just think it's a model of, like we talk about fatigue amongst Rotarians, but, we really need to get out to the larger communities of people who are unaffiliated with Rotary to let them know about polio, to let them know of, post-polio syndrome. And, particularly today with the media, you look at most of these reporters and, they're 30 years old, they're 40 years old. I don't want to say they're clueless, but I think
clueless.
I think when it comes to polio, they just don't know polio. They know very few people who have had it, and it's a great opportunity for expanding awareness. I want to praise you, Dr. Sunder, and obviously, if more did what you did, there'd be a lot greater awareness, and anything we can do to continue to support you. I'm going to be in Pakistan in late March, and hopefully we'll be able to see each other while I'm there. I don't know my exact schedule yet, changing, but look forward to seeing you.
Okay,
Awesome.
Mike, I have anybody else?
Yes,
another-
Chuck Albert has a question. Unmute yourself, please.
Chuck, unmute.
Yeah, my question is, you talked about the newly developed oral vaccine. When do you anticipate it being fully authorized by the World Health Organization?
Good question, Chuck. I haven't heard of a specific date. They're still doing all the clinical studies, all of the reports, all of that. I read a report earlier in the week that was generally very positive, but I don't know the exact date. I know they're reviewing it, and there don't seem to be any alarm bells going off. So I'm hoping it'll be soon. But it was the very first vaccine that ever got an early use approval from the World Health Organization. It got it before any of these COVID vaccines, and as a result, I think they're being extremely careful because the early use thing expedited what would be the usual process.
Mhm.
Mike, the reason
Mike,
I
when you
ask
get
that
a-
is because it would be, in my mind, unethical to ask people to stop making the old vaccine until the new one has full approval.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the next step, I guess, would be getting full approval and then trying to stop the old vaccine that's causing more problems.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's right. We need to make sure, the way they do vaccines is, they do them in bulk, and we're still funding both vaccines, or predominantly we're funding the new one, but all of the vaccine projections that the Global Polio Eradication Initiative using all continue to provide for continuing to purchase and produce the former vaccine. So I shouldn't call them former, but you know what I mean.
Mhm.
And
So-
Polio Now coordinator Stella has a point to make. Unmute yourself, please.
Thank you. No, it's just been interesting listening to all the conversation. We all have agreed that there's some fatigue on polio. As a matter of fact, last week, the Rotarians of District 451 in Egypt had to make an outing to the pyramids of Giza, all in red end polio shirts, just to show Egyptians that polio was still around, because they're having it difficult trying to raise funds for polio. Egyptians said there's no polio anymore. People think polio has been eradicated. Well, it hasn't. And that is all over the world. My suggestion was that because people are so tired of hearing about polio, during my district conference as DG, I invited a polio survivor to talk about within the framework of diversity, equity, and inclusion. DEI is a big thing now in Rotary, and everybody is talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And polio sufferers, people with disabilities, have a hard time being included. So if you could go through DEI to be invited to Rotary events, therein talking about non-inclusion, you can bring in the PP, post-polio syndrome. I'm a medical doctor. I've been for over 40 years. When I went to medical school in the 70s, we talked about polio, not a word on PPS. I didn't know about it till recently. So if I, a doctor, don't know about PPS, how many lay people have heard about it? Not too many.
True.
Therefore, my suggestion was, if we could get hold of educational bodies, I'm trying to see here how we can slip things into the curriculum of medical schools, because you have to start telling the young doctors about PPS. They won't find out about it when they're already doctors. So if in medical training or in nursing training, people are already briefed, then you can be sure that the word goes out. But this is brand new to lots of us, brand new. And I work for the World Health Organization. I can tell you this is brand new to all of us. Thank you.
Yeah, Ina, if I could share a slide for a minute, but I don't, someone needs to enable that. I don't know who's controlling the,
To do what?
okay.
There you go.
A slide. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, can you see that?
Yeah.
Can you see the pyramid?
We just see your background. You need
Oh.
to click it. You need to click on what you want to show.
Okay, I'm trying to do it. It's on my screen, but let me, yeah, it's not working. So sorry about that. But anyway, I was going to show a picture of
I
the
can find that.
of the
I can
pyramid.
find that. I'll flash it up. It's Janie here.
Whoever said that.
Janie.
It's Janie. I'll flash it up in a minute.
Thanks, Janie. You do better than I did.
Janie is our complete IT department.
Oh, good. Hey, you have the original slide, Jamie. Oh, you have one.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, I don't have to do anything.
Okay,
Okay.
there you go. So Mike, when you get up tomorrow morning, what's the one thing you're going to worry about the most?
That it doesn't snow. You know, to be honest, I know with polio, you know, I worry. I always worry about an outbreak somewhere. I worry about these folks that aren't getting vaccinated. I worry about everything. But you know, I most of all, you know, I worry about the kids in Pakistan and Mozambique, Afghanistan, and around the world that could still get polio if we don't get this done. We got to get it done. It's you know, it's just stopping us from working on so many other things that we need to stop, that we need to work on. It's still, you know, post-polio syndrome. You know, it's another. You know, it's if we can get polio done, I think attention can be diverted more to other things, and you know, including post-polio syndrome. So we got to get it.
I mean, I would hope so. I mean, just they have eradicated smallpox, but there's no after effects, you know. And once we eradicate polio, and we will, and hopefully in our lifetimes, those of us who are aging here, we will still exist, and all over the world, post-polio syndrome will exist. So my feeling was, is it too early for you to talk about what's next? I mean, let's say that we have an eradication, and let's say I'm gonna be generous and say at the end of 2026, all of a sudden no wild cases, and the vaccine derived it down to a really tiny manageable. What's next on Rotary's mind after we eradicate? And we will eradicate.
We will eradicate. I hope it's a little earlier than 2026.
I do too, but I'm just pushing it just in case.
It's, you know, Rotary has taken the position that we need to focus our corporate priority on one priority, and that's polio eradication. So, you know, there's lots of discussions, lots of involvement comes next. I get advocated to, and I'm sure a lot of you do, that it ought to be this, it ought to be that. You know, I had some meetings that kind of surprised me when I was in Orlando for the International Assembly Rotary's meeting, that UNICEF representatives were there, and they were pushing malnutrition as a priority. And you know, lots of times we hear water, we hear literacy, we hear vaccines in general. So I don't know what it's going to be, but you know, going back to my head only can focus on one big thing, and I really look at, you know, whatever comes next, it's got to be new ideas, new energy, new people, a new focus.
Okay, well, we're going to be right here watching you. I just want you to know, Mike.
Well, thank you, Ina, but you got to watch all of us, because it's, you know, you look at these folks now on the slide in Egypt, and, you know, that's what Rotary is capable of going up at the Great Pyramids.
That's a great picture. I saw it.
We're all wearing polio garb, bling, you know, the red, and yeah, and this was all organized by Mayan Rassin, I think is the right name, who's Rotarian who lives there in Egypt, and they went out there in buses, and there they are. So
that's fabulous. Just fabulous.
To create awareness. Yeah.
Right. That was absolutely wonderful.
And thank you, Janie, for.
Yeah, thank you. I told you, she's a miracle worker. Well, I've asked all of my questions at this moment, and you answered some, and of course you didn't answer others, because that's how you are. But we admire and respect everything that you have ever done, Mike. And I don't know if Rotary would be the same without you. And I really mean that.
Well,
I know, we have one more question from James Lewis.
Of course.
I didn't see Jim. Did
There,
you?
hi. Good morning. It's early out here in California.
Yeah, I can tell you.
Thanks for the invite, John.
You're welcome.
Michael McGovern, you're a hero.
He is.
In 2017, I wanted to put on a summit in Calcutta. And I wanted to have somebody to come and speak to the group. And it was a polio summit on life after polio. And I'd been on 9 NIDs over there in that area, and thought I helped eradicate, do my little part. But I saw so many polio survivors crawling in the streets, polio survivors that needed help. And it reminded me of myself, because I'm a polio survivor and I have really bad legs. And in fact, I'm using a scooter now. But I wanted somebody that was as passionate as I could find. And I mean, there's people in RI, and I don't know how many of you are Rotarians, but I got on the phone, I called Mike and I said, Mike, I'm doing this over there. I'd like to know if you'll come over and see, give a keynote address and see what we're doing. We're going to try to do something for those survivors left behind, whether they're children or they're adults or they're in between. They are going to need perhaps polio corrective surgery. They're going to need braces and calipers. They're going to need perhaps wheelchairs. They're also going to need vocational training. They're going to need to have job placement. If they're not in school, let's get them in school. So we covered those areas. Following that, we put together a global grant and we addressed the polio survivors. And I say we, it was the great Indian people in West Bengal and in Kolkata, India that did this. Over 300 corrective surgeries, 300 plus wheelchairs, numerous braces, and so forth. So my quest and my desire here for us is to get the word out, including to my doctor that doesn't know much about it, but I do have an orthopedic doctor that does. To get the word out to all of our younger Rotarians, get on Rotary, or if you're a Quanian, fine, or whatever you're doing, but talk to groups about polio. What's it all about? How important it is to be vaccinated. Just take the lead on that, like Ina says. We're going to eradicate it. We're going to get it. Look how we've been.
Yeah.
We're fantastic. When I was in Moradabad in 2004, we had 3,000 cases of paralytic polio alone in India. And look where we are now. So I say, let's use the plus on Polio Plus and start thinking about global grants. I have a very good model of what we did. We could take that model to other areas in the world. And because of Zoom, we've been able to reach all these people all over the world. I do see some of you. Look, I don't get back to Delaware to see John, but I'm sure see him on this Zoom and we can put our heads together and do something. So I just want to keep a positive attitude. The last thing I would like to,
James, that's definitely one of our goals, and we definitely would like to see that model that you have. If you can send it to me, and we'll talk more about it.
okay, I sure will, John.
Thank you.
Yeah, really. I did have one more question for Mike, and that is, can you see a moment when this Post-Polio Syndrome Advocacy Group would be a good fit for Rotary somewhere?
Why not? Obviously, absolutely.
That's what I mean about Mike.
Could even be you could form a Rotary action group. You could be you could form, there's all sorts of alternative club models where, you could form a club specifically to focus on it, which gives you, a little bit more standing in the Rotary organization. It's endless, the possibilities, I know.
Okay, but you can see it, right? You have the vision.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had a number of questions, and I know Janie's going to respond to some of them, but if, I don't, I'm looking at the chat, but I don't, I don't record the chat itself. So what I've just done is put my email. So if anyone, like someone, wants talking points that we have on
We'll
polio
spread
eradication, my email I just put in the chat, and feel free to send me the request specifically. I'm not going to do it as a result of the chat, but if you said, I'm an email guy. If you send me an email, I'll take care of whatever it is you're asking for. And John Nanny rightfully points out there is a Rotarian Action Group. That's what RAG stands for.
Yeah.
For polio survivors.
Right. Right. Well, I always learn a lot when I listen to you, and I learn even more when I listen to the people who tune in to us. And that's really quite extraordinary. We have another open meeting 2 weeks from today, which always gets a nice group showing up, but having a speaker like you really matters to us. So thank you so much, Mike. Anything?
Anybody who was new to this group who wants to be on our mailing list,
Yeah.
please give us your email in the chat. I do have a question for Mike, and I want to know how many games ahead of the Yankees is the Red Sox going to finish this year?
Just for your Rotarian, Don Alhart, I noticed there's someone from Rochester on the line. He's a friend of mine. And Don Alhart put on Facebook a couple days ago a challenge to Rotarians to pledge to donate $1 for every point scored in the Super Bowl to the annual fund of the Rotary Foundation. And I like that. It wasn't favoring the Yankees over the Red Sox or the Eagles over the Kansas City Chiefs. It was just, let's have a little fun. So those types of things are fun to do. And any of you know Don Alhart, he's a great Rotarian, and just thrilled to see him do that.
That's nice. That's really nice.
Very diplomatic of you, Mike.
Yeah, well, that's his thing, isn't it?
Going into the Yankees, no.
He didn't get to be Mike McGovern without that kind of
Yeah.
diplomacy. It's in his DNA, isn't it?
No.
It's really
Awesome.
true. Really true.
As Ina
Right.
said, sometimes I don't directly answer some questions, Ken.
Yeah, we know. We know. It's okay. It's okay. I'm always going to ask, you can sidestep you as much as you want. By the way, James, I'm in California too. Where are you? I can't.
You're muted, James. You're muted.
Where are you?
I'm just near Pasadena. I'm up not far from the Rose Bowl.
Gotcha. I'm down in West Hollywood because I would happily come to your group and talk to them.
Okay.
Okay, we'll talk about that.
Born and raised next to the Rose Bowl.
There you go. There's Carla. Well, all right. I think we can let Mike go. Mike, see, we have this
Anna?
whole social thing going also. Besides getting everything done, we do enjoy each other's company.
I know, sorry, Janie here. May I just add something?
Oh, yes,
That I-
please. Sorry.
I've put the pic of the Rotarians in Cairo on the chat, so you can pull it down from there. And anybody who's on social media, please do join our Facebook group and come and have a chat there. We're putting that together. There's a lot more information that we still need to put on the group, but it'd be great if you come and have a conversation or two on some of the chat threads. Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Ken,
Jenny.
anything else that I didn't cover today? He's my advisor.
Ken?
Ken? His
He's probably
internet.
having
internet goes in and
internet
out.
problems.
Oh, there he is. Ken, did I cover everything you
You're-
wanted me to cover?
You did a good job. I do have a really quick question. I know we're rounding it up here, but we've got a few more minutes left for Mike. I'm president of the World Disability Advocacy Rotary Club. One of the things we're focusing on is refugees and camps. And I'm wondering if maybe I'll send you a note, Mike, if there's a contact there I can talk to about the polio, people with polio in those camps, so that we can get in touch with that person.
Thanks, Ken.
Okay.
Yes, send me a quick email. Be great.
Yeah, it's
Will do. Thank you.
it's really important and very specific to that. Very.
Yeah. John McFarland had a question in the chat.
Really, John?
I didn't see it, sorry.
Where are you, John?
Don't worry, Delaware. The question, the question is, how do you get the US CDC to talk with the European equivalents? We've got numerous CDC equivalents in Europe, but we're not getting the cross-flow of information with the USA.
John, is this polio specific?
Yes.
Yeah, I find that surprising. If you could send me some specific instances, we have strong friends at the CDC. We can see what's going on there or not going on.
I'll give you the circumstances, and also because we've got cases coming up in Finland.
Cases of, I don't know, what do you?
Vaccine-derived polio, John?
John,
Sorry?
McFarland, you said you had cases in Finland. Explain.
We've got cases of virus turning up in Turku in the lake all the time from the outfall from the wastewater, and the same as you had in Rockland County, and we've had in Haifa, we had off Rio in 2014, and various other things like that. But it's a consistent one, and it seems like nothing is actually feeding back into the US system, where they're talking about it with the European Union CDC equivalent or the Finnish one. I'll send you the details, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no cases in Finland.
No, there's no actual cases in Finland.
But
What
it's in the way.
we're getting circulating virus
In the wastewater?
in wastewater in Finland, in the same way as we're getting it in 8 counties in 8 boroughs in London, and it's still there at the present time. But the cross flow of information, the London one goes all right, but the European one from the European Union doesn't seem to be talking very well with the CDC in the USA.
That's interesting. I haven't heard anything about Finland at all. I do know in the Netherlands, we had a little bit of leakage. It was reported officially the last couple of weeks, but I haven't heard anything about Finland.
Send you the details.
Thank you. We're looking for it.
Okay.
Good job. Okay.
Anybody else? Are we good?
Nope, we're good.
We're good. Thank you all for coming.
Excellent.
We so appreciate this, Mike. Thanks again. See you
Thanks,
Thank you,
soon.
Mike. Thanks,
Thank-
appreciate it.
Yeah,
as
really.
always.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us.